What if school leadership didn't have to feel isolating or overwhelming, but instead could be grounded in clarity, purpose, and confidence?
Intentional and purposeful focus on building a culture of collaboration is the secret for leaders striving to make a difference. In building a culture of collaboration, Kurtis and Lorna Hewson will share simple tips, ideas, and strategies to take your organization's collaborative efforts to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of Building a Culture of Collaboration. I'm Kurtis Hewson, lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning.
And I'm Lorna Hewson. We're excited to be joined today by Michelle Sloan, a former teacher, principal, and head of school who has led schools through growth, culture change, and system redesigns. With firsthand experience navigating the challenges principals face, from student discipline to team building to aligning mission and vision, Michelle brings both wisdom and empathy to her work.
After leaving the principal's office, she founded Sloan Leadership Solutions, where she now coaches and mentors school leaders through one-to-one coaching, leadership cohorts, and her purpose-driven principal framework. Michelle is passionate about helping leaders move from feeling reactive and uncertain to leading with clarity and purpose. We have enjoyed getting to know Michelle over the last few months, and we know that you're going to love this conversation. So happy to have you here with us, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here and to see you again.
Yeah, we always like to remark that it's always nice to be sitting on the other side of the screen smiling as a person goes through your bio. So you don't know whether to smile, nod, look away.
Well, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? We know that a bio never encapsulates
your real journey.
Yeah, share with us how. Tell us a little bit more about your educational journey and what's brought you to the space that you're at today.
You know, I never saw myself as a principal. I didn't start out in my journey. In fact, after I received my degree and I got my education, I decided to stay home with my kids for a while. And then when they were in preschool, I worked at a preschool, and then it moved on to elementary education. And I was happy to be an elementary teacher, loved it. And then somebody asked me, have you ever thought about being a principal or moving on into the leadership position? So it was somebody spoke into my life and saw something in me before I really decided to move into that area. And after 12 years of being a principal and walking that journey, recently retired a year ago, and I wasn't really sure what was next. Again, I had some of my previous staff speak into my life and say, we miss you. We need you. The education system's a mess. We need good leaders. And, hopefully you can do something to still continue to make a difference in the education system. And that's when I thought, I'm going to support school leaders. Yes, teachers are leaving the profession. It is, crazy. But I remember as a leader feeling like I didn't have the support and the network that I needed. And so that's what have tried to build through the Purpose-Driven Principal Network.
That's so exciting. And you know what? Thank goodness for people who see some of those qualities in you and encourage you to take that next step.
So, Michelle, you've shared with us that when you stepped into a new school during COVID-19 pandemic, collaboration was actually what made it possible to move forward. Can you take us back to that experience and just share with us what it taught you about sustaining culture through shared ownership?
Yeah, sometimes I still have nightmares about that period of time in the education system. I had just wrapped up being a principal at a school. We ended in March, finishing the year online. It was COVID. Nobody knew what was happening. And I was at an elementary school in Arkansas. And we had just finished kindergarten graduation, figured out how to do all of that. And that was in May. And then in June, moved to Illinois, just outside of the Chicago area. New team, new staff, new school, new state. No support system, and really just trying to figure out how we were going to start the year. And in fact, we weren't sure that we were going to be open. And we decided as a team that we were going to have to figure it out together. There's no way that I was going to be able to carry this alone. And, one of the things that I've learned over the years is a successful school doesn't mean the principal's doing more or carrying all the weight. It is a collaborative effort. And so at least I had been in school and education and as a leader long enough, I think 8 years at that time, to know there's no way I'm going to be able to do this on my own. So I pulled the team together, pulled some of the parents together, and just said, look, this is where we're at. Tell me about your parents, tell me what the culture's like, and let's each take a part of what we need to do to make this work.
It's so interesting when you mention the COVID experience. Our experience in that was actually the schools that leaned in to their collaborative structures and processes, we saw come through with higher degrees of wellness, of feeling like they were surviving that particular time. We worked with a number of schools that abandoned their collaborative structures and just said, oh, well, we'll stop meeting, we'll stop working. Everyone just go to your classroom, do what you need to do for your kids.
And it was a valid step because they were trying to alleviate anything that they saw at the time as extra. And so they removed all of the collaborative structures when in fact the schools who really leaned into the collaboration and really depended on those structures to help to support each other, they were super effective in making.
Interesting thing about your language is we don't see collaboration as the extra that you take off when you're busy. Actually, it is the necessity
how you do it
with it.
So you do everything.
Michelle,
it is necessary.
Yeah, we are super excited because we know that you have a new book that is on the horizon coming out, and it's called The Purpose-Driven Principal. So tell us about this book, about the framework. Can you walk us through what a purpose-driven principal framework is and how principals can use it in their daily leadership?
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. I am excited about the book coming out, hopefully this fall before the new school year. But inside of me, I made a transition from thinking about burning out, hitting all the fires, chaos happening every day, never really getting to the meaningful work in my day, why I wanted to be a principal, how I wanted to engage with my students, how I wanted to support teachers, the relationships I wanted to build with my parents, the thriving classrooms, the engaging classrooms. I wasn't able to get it to any of that because I was being tossed to and fro from from student discipline to being called out of meetings. And I decided if I'm going to be successful in this position, I'm going to have to get back to the purpose. What is the purpose behind absolutely everything we do? And so it started with creating mission, vision, and values. And yes, we all hear about that. We all have them, but really taking a deep dive with principals and their leadership team into who are we? Why do we exist? How does our school stand out in the community? What is different from us than the school down the street? Really understanding the demographics of their school and assessing that to build their mission. And then out of that, casting the vision. And really what that is just the mission coming to life. What do you want to see how do you want your students to look and behave when they leave your school, whether it's third grade, sixth grade, eighth grade, or 12th grade? How do we set them up for success so that they're ready for the next step in their educational journey? And then establishing those core values, that's those shared commitments on how we're going to behave, how we're going to accomplish the mission and the vision. And that really defines every decision. It's how we interact with one another. So that's the foundation. And then there are 4 pillars. People is the number 1 pillar. And as a principal, we have a lot of people that we have to build relationships with. We have our staff. And then even with the staff, there are a variety of people from support staff to admin teams, secretaries, lead teachers. And then we have our students, which should be the main part of our why everybody's there. The mission and the vision is for the students. And then there are a lot of different variety of students. They come with different backgrounds and cultures and needs. And then we have our parents. and then we have the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so being intentional about building those relationships and just mapping that out for the principals and creating points along the way where they are intentionally building relationships and mapping that out on their calendar. So that's the first pillar. And then we have pedagogy. School is a learning institution, and it's about establishing and supporting great teachers and great learning, assessing where they are, designing great classrooms and great students' experiences, and then aligning that to the mission and the vision. And then the next pillar are processes. So we've heard, people don't fail, system fail. Well, I think people do fail sometimes, and that's okay. If you have a safe enough culture, to me, it's like if you're not failing, you're not doing your job, because we do need to learn to take risks and fail. But it's also about being able to sustain your career and your calling and making a difference for the long haul. And that's where systems and processes come into place. And then the last pillar, but these are my 5 Ps of the purpose-driven principal framework, is professional growth. And that's just setting your journey before you on your own professional growth, your own personal growth, but then also helping the teachers develop in their professional growth and putting individualized plans for them so they can in turn do the same thing for the students. So the framework is working through a cycle of assessing where we're at in each of those pillars, designing platforms and programs and sustaining processes, and then aligning them. So assess, design, and align to the mission and the vision.
That's awesome. And that iterative cycle that you go through, continually engaging in that learning as a leader, is really empowering.
Right. But when it comes back to purpose, there's something about being fulfilled and knowing it's not just, if you're having a collaborative meeting, if it's about the purpose, then everybody's understanding what that purpose is, why we're meeting, we're measuring success against the purpose, then it's not just a checklist that we're walking through. And it really does make a difference.
So I'm wondering then, Michelle, in your view, when you see principals that get that clear sense of purpose, how do you feel it shapes the approach that they take for collaboration with their staff and their greater school community?
Absolutely. If you're collaborating around fulfilling your mission and your vision. So basically that's what your collaboration and all of your meetings and all of your teams are around, is just fulfilling the mission, the vision. And what that looks like for every school is a little bit different, but there is some core element about supporting students and creating an environment where they can thrive. We also want teachers to thrive and support teachers, because when they're thriving and they're supported, then the students are thriving and supported. And we want to be intentional about collaborating with parents and building strong partnerships. And the purpose of that is because when they truly partner and understand the mission, the vision, the discipline processes, the policies on attendance and homework, and really truly partner with and support the teachers and come alongside the principals, then the students thrive. So every meeting you have is an opportunity to collaborate around what's best for students. It's not just, I've got to have another meeting and I'm going to walk away with 5 more things to do after this meeting. We lose sight of why we're even here. And we get those Sunday scaries. You hear about those Sunday scaries and going to work on Monday morning and just dreading not having another day where I'm not going to get anything meaningful done.
Yeah, the work of the principal in a school is such incredibly important work, but can be challenging as well. And Michelle, your work in supporting them is highly impactful and really needed. It's a necessary component of really, how do we help people to move forward? When we think about challenges for our principals, what are you seeing that they're facing today? And how can leaders address the challenge while still building a collaborative culture?
We'll be right back to continue this episode. Leaders, are you looking for the most effective ways to empower your staff and elevate student support? Jigsaw Learning invites you to our free 2025 Collaborative Response Virtual Summit on October 24th. Join us online to learn directly from school and district leaders who are transforming their organizations with collaborative response. Discover how this robust framework can deepen your multi-tiered approach, build collective staff capacity, and ensure success for all learners. You'll gain practical resources, connect with educational leaders globally, and unlock numerous surprises, all at no cost. Mark your calendar for October 24th, 2025. Registration opens September 1st. Don't miss this opportunity to strengthen your leadership and build a thriving school culture. Visit jigsawlearning.ca for details and get ready to empower your team. And now back to our conversation.
There are a lot of challenges for sure right now in our education system. And I think consistently what I'm hearing is, I'm not sure that I can keep doing this. And there are challenges with supporting the teachers, supporting the students, and partnering with the parents. There's so much to do in a day. And we've gotten so far off track. We've drifted so far away from who we really are and what a teacher's role is and their purpose in the classroom, and what a principal's role is and what a parent's role is. It's all intertwined and mixed up. And we really have to start to separate those roles and get back to defining who we are and why we exist and how we're going to go about fulfilling that role and doing what's best for students. And so for teachers, for principals, they feel like, I need to support my teachers, so they can do what's best for the students.
Yeah.
But I've got, when you're handling a variety of complaints from parents that conflicts with supporting the teachers. And so they feel like they can't win. I can't please anybody. I can't win right now. And they also are feeling like I've heard this phrase, they're putting out fires all day long.
Yeah.
Firefighting. Yeah.
Yes, they're just putting out fires. I set my agenda for the day and I can walk into the school with a plan and school happens.
Yeah.
It's like when we talk about the people pillar with my cohorts, I'm always telling them when they're sharing their struggles with the people, the students, the kids, the staff, and the parents, the community, everything. And I say, yeah, people are people and they be peoplein'. So
yeah, for sure.
I really like that idea of, if you can come back to purpose and take the time to reflect. And we're big supporters that you need that time for reflection, both personally and collectively as well. Our friend Darren Pepper talks about it, leading from the balcony, and he shares this little story of sometimes you have to go up to the balcony and look out over what is it that we're trying to accomplish. Almost like his example is, you see the entire court. He talks about their gym space where he would go to the balcony, he'd see the entire court and mentally map out, where am I right now? What's my next step that I need to take? But if you can make it through that reflection, really clearly connecting back to purpose, it helps you navigate those tough times for sure.
Yeah, and that's part of the assess process.
Yeah.
And just, and it's not a one and done. And we do provide a survey, and we're looking at assessing where we are and identifying the gaps, looking at the strengths, because we need to celebrate the strengths. Yeah. So often we take these assessments and we talk about the gaps and how are we going to work on the gaps, and this is where we're weak and this is what we're doing wrong. And we need to celebrate the strengths. And, that's a collaborative meeting. I would pull everybody together, and I encourage principals to do that. Collaborate on how you're going to celebrate where you are strong, what you're doing well, and make that known to the students, to the staff, to the parents, to the community. Celebrate those wins. It can't always be about looking at our weaknesses and then mapping out what we need to do to fill in these gaps. We have to identify the strengths, and that's part of the assess process.
We always talk about when we're coming together for meetings, start with celebrations, but then we always suggest when you're doing that, it's not just about what are we doing well, it's asking a deeper question of why. What did we do that led to that success? So when you're using your assess portion of your cycle, being able to see where the strengths are, but then really clarifying why. What are we doing that's leading to that success?
That's good. And it's not a one and done. Like we
No.
want to have a rhythm of reflection and a rhythm of feedback that we continue with our parents, with our students, with our staff. Surveys are great. You can, you might get some anonymous surveys that are giving you some feedback. But if you build a culture of trust and you have a lot of one-on-ones and you have a lot of conversations where you're walking through conflict in a safe space, and it's okay to disagree. You can learn a lot, and that drives your collaborative teams to have a level of trust to accomplish more than you would without it. So,
Yeah, that's for sure. And when you think about, we're always trying to build those cultures of collaboration and and ensuring that we create an environment where people do trust each other, but really focus back on your first pillar of purpose, understanding that we really need to set that purpose and we need to understand what the vision is and reflecting on that often as well.
So, Michelle, you've led schools through culture change, system redesigns. Love to hear from you. What lessons have you learned about bringing people along, especially when there's times of uncertainty or transition?
right. But there's a lot of transition happening in schools right now, not just with the turnover of the teachers and the leaders, but also with students. Communities are restructuring their boundaries. Some of them are downsizing, some are closing. Families are moving into homeschool or charter. There's just a lot of shifts coming down federally, for education. And so there's a lot of shifts and changes. And with that comes fear, comes resentment.
Yeah.
And I think the schools that have established a culture of trust and collaboration will be able to thrive. One of the biggest things that I love doing is helping the principals create their dream school. And what is your dream school? What does it look like to have a thriving school? And map that out with their leadership team, because it's going to take a lot of work to get there. I think of I like to say a school is like a big cruise ship. And, we're setting a course, and that's the vision. And if you can paint a beautiful picture of that destination and what it's going to look like when you get there, you can weather the storm to get, everybody's going to want to hop on your cruise ship because they love the vision that you've cast, the destination. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, steady course. But if you are just 1 degree off on that course, you can end up in a totally different destination. And so we have to stay connected to the vision and the mission. And I think with social media and some of the peer groups, we see and hear about so many different platforms and programs and tools, and the teachers are wanting, I need this so I can support this student, and I need that. And before you know it, nobody's really saying, is this furthering our vision? Is this helping us achieve the mission? And before you know it, we have a hodgepodge of tools and platforms, and we're working really hard at training everybody. We're working really hard at gaining understanding in all of these platforms. Nobody's using it with, and I'm going to use the buzzword, fidelity. Nobody's really clear on why they're doing this. And it's we've got to get back to where we're saying, okay, if we're going to implement this new program, is this going to further the mission? Does this align with the vision? And if not, then let's not waste our time on it, because so-and-so school down the street implemented it and they're having success, or so-and-so down the street did a carnival. We need to do something like that for our community. It's really about staying true to who you are and doing what you're called to do in your mission and doing that well.
Yeah, not necessarily following the flavor of the month.
Yes, exactly. Well, it might taste good for a minute.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, with the coaching that you're doing now and the leadership cohorts, I imagine that you have a mix of new and seasoned administrators that are part of those conversations. I'd love for you, let's get four. Can you share with us four practical strategies that leaders could be implementing to move from that feeling reactive and isolated to leading with, as you said, clarity and confidence with their team, alongside their team?
Yeah, aside from walking through the assess, design, and align cycle and those key areas, some very specific things that they can do is protect their calendar.
Okay, number one. Yeah.
Yes, they really need to put everything that is priority, vital, and important on the calendar. They might walk into the day and say, oh, I'm going to go visit this classroom. I'm going to walk the halls today. I'm going to be at dismissal today and greet some of the parents, or I'm going to visit the lunchroom, or I'm going to hang out with the kids at recess. But those things don't really make the calendar. So I say protect your calendar. If that's the meaningful work, is connecting with your parents, connecting with your students, making time to visit the teacher's lounge to see what's going on with your teachers, then that needs to be put on your calendar. I also think that
interesting. I'm going to jump in there, Michelle. I used to, as a principal, we were really reinforcing that we're going to work in teams, and different teams we had created a timetable that allowed embedded time for that. But I think it really changed for us when my assistant principal and I said, actually, on every Friday, from 1 to 2 o'clock, the two of us are in a collaborative meeting together, and we're looking at mapping out next week. We had an agenda every time that was clear of, even just the two of us, what's coming up next week. Let's go back into our school improvement plan. What are our next steps? Like, we had clear things that we were doing, and we told our front office, blood or fire. Like, those are the only two things that get us out of this. And it was a perfect example of that. When we got that blocked out, oh my goodness, we could accomplish so much in that small space.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was our first one. Second.
Calendar.
The second is building a trusted circle. It's lonely at the top. We've all heard it. We've all experienced it. And I often find principals will then lean into those underneath them, their assistant principals, their team leads. And honestly, sometimes they should not be hearing the information that you're sharing. And so principals really need to have a trusted circle, a peer group. That's why I created the membership that we have. They need a community where they can vent and other people understand what they're walking through. The team leads, the team teachers, they're not going to understand the full weight unless they've been there. And then the third thing is just leading with purpose, just thinking about being intentional behind everything that you do. What's the purpose of this meeting? And starting with that, measuring the success behind the meeting. If you're having an event, I was working with one school, real quick story. They were planning a fundraiser, and they wanted to raise $50,000 at this fundraiser. They changed it up a little bit. It had consistently raised $50K for a while. They changed it up a little bit, wanted to try something new. Called them up. How was your event? It was great. Everybody had a great time. I heard wonderful stories. The parents had a great time. They want us to do it again. I was like, wait, how much did you raise? $5,000. Wow, I would not measure its success by how fun everybody had, because the purpose of that event was a fundraiser. So we really have to go back to measuring the success of what we do by the purpose of why we're doing it.
We've often shared, if you're having an agenda, which every meeting should have an agenda, purpose right at the top. Why are we meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
And stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And give us a fourth gold nugget. We'll be right back to continue this episode. We have all felt like this before when engaging in team meetings, feeling like our time is not being maximized, or that this could have just been an email. As a leader, how can we ensure this is not the reality for everyone in the room? Rather than just simply coming together into a shared space, we really need to ensure that whenever we are engaging as a team in meetings, that the time is being utilized to its utmost, and that we are truly seeing impact as a result of our conversations. My name is Kurtis Hewson, lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning. In this free on-demand webinar, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 planning considerations and then 5 facilitation considerations that you can put into place as a leader to take your team meetings to the next level. Access this webinar, and in addition to these 10 considerations, numerous free resources will be shared that you can begin using immediately. I can't wait to have you join me to learn how we can ensure that team meetings are having their optimal impact. And now back to our conversation.
Build strong teams and delegate. You can't do it alone. You'll never be able to fulfill your dream vision. You'll be surviving and not thriving. So build strong relationships, build strong teams, and delegate.
You know, we've often shared the idea that good leaders don't solve problems. Good leaders create systems to solve problems. And of course, there's always going to be things that that fall on your desk that you have to attend to, but lots of things that don't. And if you can create systems, not everything gets dumped at your office door.
And go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to say, I started thinking every question that came to me through an email, through a knock at my door, an interruption into a meeting, was an opportunity for me to think, what needs to change? What system or process or onboarding can I put in place that can make this not, be clear so it doesn't happen again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we know too that when we bring teams together to problem solve, then we often end up with a different solution than if it were one person making that decision about what's going forward. So being able to delegate or to create teams, leadership teams that can work alongside of you is so impactful.
That's an excellent point.
Michelle, I've seen and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about this. I've seen on your social media lately that you've had, and I'm going to butcher it, so you're going to have to correct it for me, a statement of, if you're in your office, you're going to be solving problems. If you're in classrooms, you're going to be preventing. And again, I know I didn't capture it exactly. Can you share that thought process? Correct me.
No, that's exactly it. Like, good principals are in their offices solving problems. Great principals are in the classrooms preventing them. Yeah. And that ends up being what's happening. We're in our offices trying to get, paperwork done, trying to plan, trying to put the newsletter, communications, whatever it is, we're in our office. We can't get out to see what's happening in the classrooms, to know how I can support that teacher, to identify a student that might need support. And instead, we're in our office waiting until their crisis moments.
Mm-hmm. That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. I'm interested, Michelle, in your work now with the purpose-driven framework that you've established with your purpose and then your 4 Ps. What of those 4 Ps of people, pedagogy, professional growth, and processes, which one do you see administrators typically struggle the most with or need the most support around? Is there one that stands out?
That's a good question. I know when I was looking at the framework, I really wanted to put these in order. So the purpose is the foundation, and I struggled with is pedagogy first, because that's the mission. We're all here to educate our students, but our relationships with the students, the staff, and the parents have to be first. I think there are a lot of principles that the 4 pillars to me, I think you're strong in people, you're strong in pedagogy, maybe how you learn how to navigate difficult conversations and how to resolve conflict better over time. Processes, some people have them, some people don't. I would say purpose is the one everyone struggles with. In my cohorts, it's one of the first things that we look at, and I'll often say, tell me what your mission statement is. And literally the principles are, I think it's on our website. I know it's on the wall. I think it says, or,
I've seen it somewhere.
Yeah. But if it's not defining who you are and why you exist, and you don't know that, then your staff doesn't know it, and your students don't know it, your parents don't know it, your community doesn't know it. And it truly is what is going to drive those decisions on knowing what event to host, what platform to bring in, what program you need, because it's defining your vision for your school. And it might sound like a great idea, but is it going to drive home and help the students that you have in your school? So I think it's purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose, the foundation of mission, vision, and core values.
Yeah. And if you don't have that clear and intentional, then what's happening in your school? Because to be successful, you need to have that as your core.
Right? Because what's going to happen is the district's going to come in and they're going to say, oh, your math scores are too low. You have to raise your math score. So now everything shifts and changes. Or a parent's going to come in and say, you need to help your students, understand respect. So now everybody's on a mission to teach the students about respect. Or a teacher will come in and say, I want to develop leadership team and career focus. And another teacher will say, I want to focus on trade school. And so before you know it, you're a hodgepodge of things and you have no idea what your true mission and vision is.
Or even worse, and I fell into this at one point in life, of when the principal comes back and says, great news, I just attended a new conference, we're going a new direction.
Oh, no.
And now your staff just go, oh, my goodness, not so again, true. Stay home.
So true.
Oh, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing the work that you're doing, and so excited for your book to come out. Let us know how our listeners can get in touch with you.
So they can go to Sloan Leadership Solutions for my website. And I think we're also going to attach a way that they can get on my newsletter, which is the Purpose-Driven Principal newsletter that goes out weekly.
Awesome. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. For anyone listening or watching, get on that newsletter. Michelle drops all sorts of practical strategies, resources. I've seen you sharing templates on there, blog postings. It's really, really high value stuff for principals. So thank you for that work that you do and are helping to just continue to transform the profession.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, Michelle. We'll be talking again. We'd love to get you on when that book gets released so you can share some of the nuggets that are coming from it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take you up on that offer.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
I was super excited to come into this conversation because we've gotten to know Michelle first as a colleague, but as a friend over the past few months. And oh my goodness, the way she approaches leadership and then supporting leaders is just so bang on. And man, if I agree, if you're not centered on your purpose and you don't have clarity for that, how can you move forward in creating collaboration around that? And she had me reflecting too of I was a principal early in my career where if someone asked me what's the mission of the school, I always say I think it's written down here somewhere, but to get to the place of do you know it? Do you live it? Not that you have to recite it word by word, but if you don't know the direction you're going, it's going to be really hard to get, again, that word clarity for everyone in the organization.
Yeah. And with her purpose-driven leadership, how can you lead if you don't know that mission? And for many people, it's a theoretical statement that has no relevance. So it is about being able to take the time to either review or develop with your team so that that co-creation always creates more buy-in and more ownership in what that looks like going forward.
Well, and I love, too, the idea of repeatable systems and structures over and over again. Even the cycle of assess, design, align, and then we just continue to do it. We often say it looks like you're going in circles, but actually think of it as looping. We're looping and getting deeper and tighter and more
iterative cycle of learning that really is impactful in every time that you come around.
Yeah, more coherence.
Great impact.
What stood out for you?
Yeah, so again, I can't count how many times we have talked about clarity, purpose, and intentionality on this podcast, and Of course, again, it came through strong and bright with Michelle. And And I think that Michelle's work is so incredibly important in supporting leaders, not just young leaders, all leaders, in being intentional, purposeful with the work that they're doing, and then being able to move into that really practical space of, well, what does this actually look like to you as a team? And really thinking about, how do we get mentors? How do we get coaches who are really guiding people to be effective leaders? So Michelle's work is so important.
Okay, well, let's then restate 5 things that Michelle basically gave us, really practical strategies that I think leaders could look at implementing right away. Number 1, start meetings with celebrations.
Yep.
We talk about that all the time. She talked about it. When you're looking at your data, it's not just where is the gap, where are the celebrations, and build that into your process over and over. Second one is block out your time. To me, that one's critical. If being in my classrooms are important, awesome. Go put it in your schedule and help get the support from your front office staff to help protect that schedule here for us. Third one, she said, get a trusted circle. Other principals that you can connect with, whether that's online, in person, whether it's through some of the supports and services Michelle provides or through others. Third or fourth is every time we meet, the purpose is clearly stated up front. That's easy. Write it down on the agenda, say it right at the start, take just that 30 seconds of remember what we're here for the next 30 minutes. And then the last one is seek out where you can delegate. I love that idea that if you feel like you've had the same question come to you twice, what's happening? What system could we build?
Let's explore that further to figure out what
onboarding could we do? What could we do to have the system answer that question?
The delegation piece that Michelle talked about really makes me think about leadership teams and how many effective leaders create very intentional leadership teams with representation from both formal leaders, but informal leaders as well, and bringing them together regularly to talk through some of the challenges, to talk through some of their plans coming forward, and that there's always those other voices that help you to play out what are the next steps.
Absolutely. And again, go back to block time. When does that team meet? What does that, what's the agenda look like?
Guard that time.
We've heard it described as a guiding coalition, a steering team, a lead team, the principal cohort. Like there's been so many different descriptions we'd had.
We had our own called action planning teams, and it was how we were driving our school improvement plan, and we had a leader on each of those teams, and then each of those leaders would come together with us regularly to really think about, how do we help each other in those informal leadership roles.
All right, so hopefully there's lots to take away from this, and once again would love to thank our guest and friend, Michelle, for joining the podcast and sharing her expertise. Please make sure to check out the show notes, learn more, and definitely sign up to that newsletter. Please reach out to Michelle if you're interested in a further conversation. As always, we have 2 requests. First, join or share our mailing list at JLinsiders.com. Every week, we sit down and share content that comes out on Saturday, resources that we know you're going to find valuable. Second, please like, share, review, subscribe to help ensure someone else who needs to hear what Michelle had to say has a greater chance of finding it. And finally, don't hesitate to reach out to us at questions@jigsawlearning.ca. If you have a question, a future topic, or a guest that you'd like for us to be able to connect with, or if you'd just like to be able to connect, we'd love to be able to hear from you. So with that, we once again wish you all the best as you endeavor to build that culture of collaboration for your organization.
See you soon.
Jigsaw Learning, founded by Kurtis and Lorna Hewson, is a team of educators who work with schools, districts, and educational leaders to establish collaborative response to ensure success for all students. Because every child deserves a team.